Hey, well, welcome to the Dreamlabs, gang. Hopefully, I'm just going to join in here today, and I thought we'd take a moment and just go back and review some things that we did on Tuesday's stream regarding the 400i. And again, like we said on Tuesday's presentation, I want to make sure that we I want to make sure that I really settle this score by stating the following. It is an absolutely beautiful ship. I'm not denying that at all. Despite one of the nicest things Origin has done, it's very romantic, very, very beautifully done, handsome as all get up. But I thought we'd take a look at it, just see if we can do some facelifting work and some little minor design tweaks and do a variation on it, on that theme. So on that premise, I just brought back some of these sketches. I'm going to go through a little bit of review here today, and then go back in, for example, at the end of those review status, and show a couple of progressive sketches, advancing sketches that we I developed as a result of that stream on Tuesday. And then I picked out a direction, and I've started a little bit of a marker study or final sketch rendering study for you to look at, and I'll kind of try and wrap it up here today for us when we go through it. So let's go back into phase one here. Phase one, it started out the stream on Tuesday. We're just going through a series of little thumbnail sketches, these soldier studies here, looking at just possibilities of getting some elevations down and looking at two things primarily when we went through the whole process. Number one is to maintain the elegance of that ship as it is a 400i. But number two, to add some little tweaks and little changes of pace, maybe stretching it and thinning it out a little bit, and changing some nacelle, engine nacelle work, and some of the dihedrals that are involved in it, and just taking little tweaks and the variations on theme, and just take some of the mass out of it. And I'm not saying that as a criticism. The mass meaning a little bit more profile, a little more stretch to give it some real elegance, and that's the point. Furthermore, to really stretch the elegance of that machine. So very well done. So these sketches were just about centered around that pursuit. For example, a little bit weighty here, not bad in this elevation. That's kind of captures some of the nice stuff character reference. A lot of long stretch in the nose, pulling the cabin rearward, and a lot more expression in the form itself. A little busy here, bulky in this case. Again, pretty close here in terms of getting to the point of the gesture down, but again, I wasn't really happy with some of the rear quarter areas here, where some of the engine nacelle and the engine locations are taking place. The cockpit area, it was kind of nice if we cover that up. That cockpit area is kind of neat. That gesture right there looks kind of interesting where it just comes down, and you still need to stretch a little bit. So that was the first page we did. I went to this guy, and again, a little rounder with this thing, almost elliptical in terms of a circular in a sense, and stretched the lips, and then kind of coming out of a very strong, long body form. Instead of going with a full forward slant, a la old battleship contrast, going reverse curve on this thing, bring it back to the body form. A little bit busy up on top here. That wasn't a bad gesture right there. That's not too bad. If you cover this portion of up, not too bad, but again, a little busy underneath here. And again, weight problems, a little bit more, a bit too much bulk here to kind of work with. So then I went to this guy. Interesting, really interesting stretcher. I mean, I thought this was an interesting romantic shape to take advantage of. That instead of being so square to the world and very linear, but more sweep to it, and then adding a little bit more deck up on top. I wasn't happy with the engine location, but that basic gesture, that silver area right through here, that sky blue or white reflected light form through the center looks pretty elegant. So I think we're going to build on that a little bit and see what we come up with. So those are the two we started with, and then when we went from those two sketches to this pass right here, it's some newsprint roughs, real fast little pencil sketches. I'll go through them very rapidly here. This is a result of going back in and saying, all right, let's take those little thumbnail sketches and go one more step up, and we begin to work on some things that make some sense to this guy, and add some more drama or detail to it. Now, the first pass, again, coming back to some of the double dihedrals, engine location was pretty much there, but I really wasn't happy with the mass again through the middle of this thing, a little bit bulky in terms of weight. So that was step one. Step two, another little quick sketch, a little closer with some of the profile work, getting this down a little bit, slimming it much less weight into it, and a very interesting section here. It was almost round here, sharp underneath, and kicking back out again. So the section detail was interesting. Those are the sketches, these two started it. So from that page, we went ahead and began to look at this little guy, study these guys, broke it into some a little bit more exploratory stuff, where all of a sudden, again, now notice that same kind of long, elegant sweep, trying to get it into the form itself, and then breaking that in and coming through, and then adding some of the dihedrals out on the end, and engine nacelle, a little bit of cock. This is an interesting little aspect coming in from Nemo, who was on board with us on Tuesday. He said, what about a gondola underneath, where you actually go to a lower piece for sight underneath the vehicle instead of being up on top all the time? And the captain's folly here, down below, a little bit of an observation deck where you can actually look out and begin to see some of the terrain or some of the Target's rep. Hey, Victoria, how you doing, Chief? Good to have you on board, man. Everything going okay? Thank you for joining me here today, Victoria. It's always good to have you on board. I'm just going through a real quick review here. Based on where we were yesterday. I'm going to take it to a next step here in a few moments once we go through the quick review. This is like an overview for me to kind of just go back and look at where we were and then begin to build off of that, Victor. So thank you for joining me. Good to have you on board. So we started here, and again, the weight got a little bit nicer, and I think the gesture was there, but again, still not quite there yet. I wasn't really happy with a lot of busyness going on through here. A little bit of a plan view starting to kind of break out with that same kind of reverse sweep that the current 400i has, and the cockpit area up on top with the captain screw up on top here. A little wider platform. Again, weighty here, but not bad. I really care for the upper portion, looked good, but I mean the weight down in here got a little bit too much. I tried to stretch that a bit too much. This started to make some noise here. This was interesting how all of a sudden this started to have a little bit of kick to it. I think the absence of the rear deck, almost a la B2 or stealth-like platforms in the wing structure, pretty interesting. Yeah, of course. Pleasure to be here. Hey, good deal. So feel free to join in at any point, Victor. If you see something you like or dislike, feel free to give me some input. Always good to have you on board. But again, back to the subject matter. This one had a little bit of sing to it. It all of a sudden started to look like it had a little bit of romance, a little bit wide and through, a little girthy, but nonetheless had a bit of a character reference to it that I thought was interesting. So that was a good one to build off of. Then the last study I did down on the page here is much more a real strong sweep coming off of that long chiseled nose, coming off that long sweep and then into this nacelle engine intake area. And again, dropping the dihedrals down and extending the wing form. So it's almost has a B2 stealth look to it. I'm not quite sure if we want to go that route. A little bit heavy. And furthermore, I think it moved away from the actual context of the actual 400i. So I think, again, coming back, bringing all these ideas together, just reading it in a little bit, was beginning to help me see what the clarification was, what the design direction should be. So that was page 2. Then the third one we did, all of a sudden I built off that last sketch we were just talking about, and I thought, this is interesting now. But now we're moving into something where we have some real interesting form here. Much more stretch, a little bit more needle-like up front, and really elongated the nose cone in this thing, or the nose aperture. And then coming back into engine nacelles that began to make a lot more sense, and this took a lot of the weight out of it. So it was more of a pod to engine to nose, and it was just 3 points that were really interesting to work with. Changing the perspective from the overhead 3/4 down to a little bit of an elevation where a little bit of the underbelly is showing. It had a nice gesture to it, and then really kind of helped put it all together nicely, I think. Making a lot of progress from where I started yesterday's Tuesday stream, rather. So then we went from that, and the plan view was nice too. Then all of a sudden had a little bit of a kickback on it. I don't know about the opening areas in here as far as dihedrals or turbulence is concerned, or aerodynamics, but the character of the forms are kind of nice. So I thought, that's interesting. So let's take a look at that. And then just before we start here, this was kind of a set direction. I think if I could take the engine pods out of there and just look at the actual nose cone, or the boom section of it, and then opening up in the cockpit, that whole upper area looked good. A little bit more revision on some of the engine nacelles right and left. So what do you think, Victoria? So far so good, making progress here. Again, a quick review of where the sketches are, and I think we made some good headway from where we started with the little thumbnail sketches to this level here. And this one especially had some character to it. I just thought that had a little more magic to it. So let's take a look at this one. Now, what we didn't do, and I'll just take a moment here to kind of clarify. One of the nice things about this whole form would be to do this. We'd strike a center line. It'd be nice to come back in and just look at this. Let's get a section going in through here. Let's just do this. Let's come back in and just cradle this thing in a little bit. There's the actual form itself. Now we come into that captain's area here, or the cockpit area, and we put that nacelle up on top of this thing. That's what we're looking at as far as, then we put a couple of intakes up on top here, a little bit of ears in this thing, and that goes there. Just kind of get that down. Now let's just kind of smooth this out. Now notice, we come off of this, we come into this, and what we did returned on some of those shapes, so we come back to that basic section. Out here, out front, is this very strong dihedral nose piece. So that comes along and just walks into this. That comes along and walks into this. And we come into that nose piece, that caps from down, that cap comes down. Center line here, and it just breaks in a little bit of a canard system here, so it does a little bit more footprint to it. And that goes back into the body form. We'll get to that in just a moment. That basic front gesture coming back in, and these guys come back and disappear in the canopy. So there it is. There's the actual gesture, the actual itself. There's the upper. This drops in, and this drops in. Does that. Now the real clue is to get this thing to kind of sing for us here. What happens in the wing structure? Where are the engine nacelles? Let's do this. Let's drop this down. Let's drop this in. Do this. There's a separation there, separation there. So this is all body forming through here. Here's the actual canopy itself up on top. There's a little bit of an intake. I'll show you that in just a moment. A little bit of an intake on this side, and show you that in just a moment. Then we come back in. Some glass area here. Let's kind of change the gesture of that. Let's take this inboard. Get this down. Now, off that needle section here, there's going to be a couple of refueling ports. There it is, comes out of here. This comes out of here. Now this goes into a series of dihedrals. Or strakes, that comes down off of that. And let's come back in through here. Now this comes in, drops again, and picks up that very simple dual wing. There it is. That's almost like a front elevation what we're looking at here. So if I put a little bit of surface in this thing now, let's come back in and tone this guy. Down through the center. Let's put more widow's peak in this thing, so it's almost that into that. Let's put some window graphics in this guy on that side. Into center line. Let's put a bit of skylight on this thing. Let's put an additional kick up right in through here. Just kind of like a wind deflector of some sort. Let's bring that into play here. Let's get that to come through. Let's come back in through here. There's that body form. This is right at this front saddle. There it is. Right? That's almost like a front elevation of this thing. There's a little bit more spook to it, I think, as far as drama is concerned. Here's this guy. Now let's get the engine nacelle to work in through here. There's intake. This comes along. This comes up into here. Comes up into here. There's that underbelly. So that's doing this. Comes into that canard there. Comes into that canard right about there. So there we are. It's drawing through this guy. Engine insert. Let's tone that back a bit into some strakes, into an articulating wing surface here. And this guy will pivot around that point right there. So that's almost a good front elevation say right there. So we're looking at how this thing might look here. Let's get a little bit more romantic in this thing here. Maybe we stretch this out a little bit more. A lot of overhang. Bring that on through. And come right down the wing form here. Let's just do this. A little bit of an intake here. Go through the center line, tone surface here, light source from the left-hand side. It's going to give me that. It's going to give me this into that, and then let's bring that dihedral back. That's what that's going to look like in the front view right there. So that's basically the basic architecture of the front view of this thing. So let's just take a second here, sharpen the stick for a moment, and let's move into just a little thumbnail sketch here. What happens if we start to do this? We'll look at it from the other side here. When the thing really opens up, kicks back, comes in underneath, comes in the underbelly. Now let's do this. Let's get this guy up to speed. There's center line. There's my strakes. I'm going to bring this up and return that platform in through here. Get that to work. That. That'll come in. Do this. There's my center line. Cockpit. Now let's get those canards to work. Let's bring this out and bring that through. See it on the other side. There's my center line. A little bit of a wing draft in through here. There it is there. Let's take that right on through. Now let's come up for this. With this. See much of that on this side here. Let's bring that straight right through. This comes in the underbelly, goes right through, up into that form right there. That comes forward, breaks in, that rolls over. There's that little dihedral we were talking about right there, that little wing change. So there it is from the 3 3/4. What do you think, gang? Looking pretty interesting. Not bad, huh? We're getting there. It's getting closer. So let's go back in and put a little bit of graphics in this thing now. These are 2 air intakes up over the top. Here's the point of reference here. This is on the upper side. Now down below, we've got this very strong stealth exhaust system that comes off the engine in through. And this dihedral comes off of the form there. I mean, just see it right there. Let's bring this into play. And again, off this side here, and then underneath there is the engine nacelle. That's where that guy's going to plant. That comes in underneath there, draws in, and then the exhaust is right up on top. And let's get this guy straightened up. There it is there. It's there. Center line. Let's get some graphics in this guy so we know where the cockpit is. There it is. There it is. And a little bit of an auxiliary window here. And coming down the chute, underbelly, a bit of a change of pace here. Let's kind of put a bit of tone in this thing to take some of the weight out of it. Bring this in a little stronger. Section. Underbelly, wing graft, and again, a little bit of tone in the back side of this guy. There's the upper, my wing split. There's the header here. It's into section. In the underbelly, section, into section. And then again, there's a little rear three-quarter side of that guy. What do you think, guys? Coming together pretty nicely. I mean, it's got some character to it. I think it's getting closer to the image what we're after here. Let me add one more thing here. We'll go back to this thing. Let's get this fluted area here. Let's put a bit of stealth cut in this thing. Yeah, it's more like it. That's cool. So there we are. There's a little guidelines here to tell me where I am as far as the direction of the sketch is concerned. So looking at a front elevation and then looking a little bit at overhead rear three-quarter, just trying to slim things up and get a lot of airspace back into here. If we were to look at this thing just very quickly here, all this is negative space. That's all negative. Let's kind of scuff that in a little bit here. Negative space. And we'll get a little bit of eraser here to kind of clean our act up a bit. This all comes back to highlight. This all comes back to highlight. That's all positive. That's all positive space there. Again, very negative. A little bit of highlight back in through here. Great thing about this process is, man, this eraser stuff is great to work with, because again, just erase it right past out, it comes right out of the way, and you got it. It's a nice little approach to change of pace here. There it is. There it is. And just put a little bit of mystery in this thing. Let's do this. A little bit of cloud pattern underneath it, so we're over in the atmosphere here. And we'll let that go with that. And let's go back at it here again. Those highlights are working. They're there. Cloud pattern. Let's clear it back to paper. Interesting stuff. There's a quick little gesture right there. Let me get this thing cleaned up here, guys. I'm gonna keep going here. Ventura, you still there? Victoria, you still there? If you have a moment, what do you think of this progress so far? Are you making sense with this thing? Yeah, very good. Excellent. So there it is. There's a recorder study. So let's take one more shot of this thing by doing the following here. Let's see if we can kind of come up with, pardon me, I mean, it's a sharpen a stick. And see if we can get some progress made on it. We have the gesture right. Let's do this. I'm going to start later. We'll just use this as a combination piece. We have the gesture right. Let's kind of stretch it even further. Get the needle in place. Front end. Now let's come back in through here and just really kick this thing up. There it is there. Rear front. There we are, coming together here. Hey, DMG 87. Oh, Mr. Orr. Hey, Demetrius, how are you, man? Good to have you on board. How's everything? I like the wing shape being cut into form from the rear portion. Yeah, I do too. I think it's kind of a neat approach where you just kind of cut that thing back into the rear portion and then eliminate a lot of the mass back there. I think, Victoria, that's neat. Hey, Demetrius, good to have you, man. How's everything going for you? It's pretty good. Let's put this gesture to bed here. Just gonna come back in with a couple of little things here to make some adjustments. That comes through. That blends into the body form. That breaks out here. There's a little bit of an intake here. And again, come back, and this is all underbody. So let's get this all toned in. Upper cabin. Glass pieces here. A touch of color. Underbelly scoop. Ring glove. Lower observation. Glass. Skylight. Yeah, just starting to break the form up a little bit. Sorry about that. Sharpen these sticks up a little bit here. Hey, there we go. A little bit of pocket in this guy. Let's put a little bit of graphic on the outboard end here so we can see where we're at. And this rolls in and does the following. Does that. Same thing underneath. Won't see much of that, but nonetheless, let's put a little bit of configuration on this thing here. There we go. There's a nice 3/4 study. What do you think, guys? Hey, enjoying your progress. Hey, all right. And the wing, good, and good. That's good to have you on board here, gang. There it is. So there's a real three-quarter overhead, a little 3/4 front. We're getting pretty closer. So based on that premise, I went ahead, for example, and took a little bit of an action here. Let me just share what I did. Once I went through this whole process here, took a bit of time. Let's do this. Let's add a little bit of this drama to it. So let's put some of this in place. So we kind of give it a little bit of context here. A little bit of pastel down. Just kind of lump it in. So just kind of combine the two together here. We'll come back and put a little bit of pattern to it. Let's just do this in all fairness. Give this guy this elevation study, a little bit of prominence as well. So just going to put that in place. A little bit of pastel wash, lay that in. Get that to kind of configure up on top here. Kind of put a little bit of composition together on this little study here. A little bit of atmosphere. Let's try this. A little bit of blue sky. That won't hurt at all. Let's get some of that in place. Let's take some of that, kind of scrub it in. Same in this side. Let's get a little bit of sky tone in this thing too and kind of blend it in. It's a real quick empathic concept sketch here of what we're after as far as a vehicle is concerned. Just really interesting to see how it all come together, and let's kind of clean it up a little bit here so I'm not destroying some of the surface we were already working here. Let's get a bit of highlight back into this thing. And we're just going to clean it up just a bit. And let's see if we can get that brush. Here it is. There it is. We can find this guy. Clean it up just a little bit. A little bit of drama to it here, gang. What do you think? So making sense? A pretty good very close contact with a nice, I think, a pretty solid approach here. Once we get started here, we erase a little bit of it and then bring it back in, and we'll just regroup it just a bit here. Soften it off. A little bit of cloud pattern in there. There she is. There's a little composition study. Oops, let's get this all squared away here. Little composition study on what the front elevation might look like, and then a little bit of rear 3/4, and into again a little bit of design change as we go here. There's nothing real consistent in these sketches. It's just looking at what ifs in terms of putting together the character. So then let's end it at that, and I'll find where my pencils are here. There we are. Let's go back in through here. Well, that kind of ends that little storyline in terms of where we were on Tuesday and bring it back into, that's right, Demetrius, that's newsprint, rough brand, and just great to work with because it's just nice and soft and it kind of takes some texture nicely, and you can erase back out of it and get some things done with it. So here we are, gang. There's a rough study of where we are with the whole process from where we were on Tuesday. And I think it's interesting to see that we made some really good significant changes from where we were. For example, you look at that page by comparison, what we had here when we started, believe me, night and day. Let me see if I can move that into place here. That goes up there. Look at the difference with those two sketches there. When you meet Goddess, she may ask you if she can have that one. She loves the 400i. There it is. Look at the difference in the character between where we started with a lot of bulk and a lot of mass, and we're really streamlining the whole thing and stretching it all out and putting together all together, just nice little, getting the weights down. I think that was the biggest challenge we had here. So this is it. Let's put that aside. There's a progress we made. That's another little step in the series here, so that was kind of helpful for me to go through to see what we're after. Then once I got through this early in the day here, I really went back and looked at this. I put together a couple of little thumbnail sketches here. I just want to bring you up to speed on where this came about. This is where we were, for example. Just interesting how it all started. Some quick little elevations and some plan views. This plan view, when I did this plan view, let me find a pencil here I can work with. When I did this plan view right in through here, that one really looked like an intriguing approach to just how it all just opened up and came back to a nice simple blister and a very simple, straightforward package form here. This was interesting to plan. If you ever go stealth with this thing, that's almost like a B2 system where it's all B2 in the rear and then all of a sudden 400i up front. So for things coming along the line here, maybe do another series of these guys come along here. It'd be kind of fun to look into that, wouldn't it? But again, real quick elevations. This little thumbnail study here is what it would look like in a landing position with the entry egress process down. But what started to hit me was this approach right here. That little let me get this up in place here. That little 3/4 front study had some character to it. So based on that page, I went into this page and began to go a little further. And then when I finally found, this was getting closer. Again, the romance of that long extended nose and a very simple cockpit area behind that, maintaining that 400i elegance. And again, this little low profile 3/4 front view started to tell me a story about that. Maybe it's a nice space up for the 400i. And then this one kind of summed it up. And that one really is a precursor to what we just did here a moment ago. This very simple sketch right here. I mean, that to me is embodiment of that form into that form. Very close in terms of character. So there we are. And that's where we were at this stage of the game. And I thought, what would really be cool to look into here is let's do this. What if we did this? Out of these studies, I picked a direction and wanted to go back in and do some pretty interesting graphics work here. So what I did was, based on that progress, let me pull this sketch out so you can see the relationship here. Pardon me as I disappear from the camera a little bit. I'm back in from that sketch right there. Coming back in and said, this is kind of interesting. I went ahead and put together a little bit of a marker study. There it is in 3/4 front. I mean, look at that. What do you think? Let me just get your input on this for a moment. Again, that came from this concept sketch down below here. There it is. There's the progress being made. There it is there. We get it in the screen. And there she is. So from this to that, what do you think? I'll just wait here for any input you might have. Get set up here to kind of wrap it up as we go down the line here. Anybody, any commentary? Oh, yeah, what do you think? That thing is a bird of prey. Yeah, I think that's what I'm looking for. Just a nice, simple, elegant. I think we captured the character we're after there, Victoria. Remember we said yesterday, probably on Tuesday's stream, we had a lot of weight difficulties and didn't stretch it long enough or had enough character to it. It really is interesting by just stretching the whole nose cone, maintaining and getting this little. To me, the interesting thing here is this platform change here, this little wing that comes out and grafts in the engine base out, then the wing graft, and then keeping that rear section open like we did in some of the other sketches. Tamir, really interesting, very, very interesting approach to it. So I went ahead and put that together, and I just thought I'd put a thumbnail together for us here. So I'm going to try and wrap it up here today so you can see from start to finish how this whole process unfolds. And Demetrius, thanks very much. I appreciate the input, and as well as Victoria, terrific. Beautiful but mean. Yeah, that's the one. It's beautiful, but it's mean looking. It has an aggression to it. And I realized too that the 400i doesn't have that same. It's more of a passenger fleet vehicle. I understand that, but again, if we want to do a facelift here, the whole premise on Tuesday was to take a look at the 400i. And again, beautiful ship, no complaints whatsoever. If we put some facelift to it and kind of tweak some things, what would we do to it to make it very unique and a little more perspective to it? So let me just do this. Let me take a couple of seconds here, and let's stain in some things and get this marker study put together. So the first thing I'm going to do is put a little bit of land base down below, a little bit of terra firma. So I'm going to come down below here. Pardon me. Get some terrascape in here. It's working with one marker. Just to stain a little bit of ground surface in here. Going to give it a platform to work with and set upon. A little bit in context to it. Again, a little bit of maybe some little water surfaces that are in there, just on the planet itself. Drop that in a little bit. Let's take some of this, put a little bit of tone inside this guy, and kind of sculpt in what this might start to look like. A bit of desert terrain. Smudging a surface in. Let's do a little bit of this. And some of that terracotta in there too. Just a little more flavor to it. So there we are. A little bit of terracotta, just to kind of give us a little bit of terrain coming over the top of this thing. You should post these on the SIG Twitter. You'd get picked up in a heartbeat. Hey, it's not a bad idea. And we've talked about that again, Victoria, and some of the stuff. I don't know how to get there, but I'm going to learn how to do that. That'd be kind of fun to do, I think. Just going to get this cleared up a little bit here. Let's have a little bit of highlight back into this thing. Get a little bit of contour in the landscape itself. See if we can kind of come back to some sort of pleasant looking platform to work with here. Get this out of the way. Let's put a little more of some of that water feature in here. Kind of we lost a little bit of it. Let's kind of take that on through just a bit more. Yeah, just going to blend that in. Some of that to happen here. Let's come back and get a little bit more of this surface here to kind of build up just a bit more. Creep that thing out of there. What do you think, gang? A little bit of a base to work with there. Got it? Helping. Now we're going back in, and let's put a little bit of sky to this thing. So a little bit of tone to it. Let's see if we can kind of get this to work. Let me just do this first. So there's a highlight back in through this thing, so it just doesn't look so ominous looking. A little more contour to it. I'll come back and draw some detail at the moment here. So I bring that all together. I'm going to blend it in just a bit more. Soften it just a touch. So there we are. There's a little bit of a landscape underneath there as we go with it, and let's kind of get that out of the way. Now let's put a little bit of sky in this thing. Now let's get these guys out of the way for a moment. get my gears out of the way. So there we are, a little bit of that coming together. Now, what do I do with my, there it is. Come right back to this. Get a clean pad. A bit of this Webro. By the way, I'm working with this is a soft pastel. This device here is really unique. This is called a Webro pad. WEBRL. It's a cotton cleaning system for printing presses, and it does a great job of really getting into the area of almost giving you an airbrush look when you work with these hard pastels that we're dealing with here today. So here we go. Let's get a little of this and started. Just got to put this into place and get this on a softer surface. Get that out of the way here. A little bit of a blend here. And we'll show how this operates. A little bit of purple in this thing to kind of deepen it up a little bit. Now we're going to get a little bit of a mix over here and come back. You ready? This is really a lot of fun stuff. We're going to mix over here. Clean this up just a bit here. Let's try to put a little bit of atmosphere to it now and really kind of more border. Yeah, there you go. Are the cream strips so you don't. So yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm just putting up the little bit of tape there, Demetrius, to kind of keep me inside the window here. A little bit of dark contrast back in through here, so we kind of get that to work. There it is. Let's bring some of that same tone into the landscape just a bit to reflect it just a touch down to earth. And that kind of softens that off a lot. That helps. Just kind of put a little bit more into that. There she is. A little spookier looking. That helps. Got to take some of the bite off of that. Let's come back in again. A little bit more of this purple. And we'll blend that in place. Sky up in there. Let's bring this on through. Let's see how we're doing here. What do you think, gang? Coming together all right? There she is. Just kind of put a little bit of drama off the one side or the other here. Maybe just a touch of a little bit of sunset in this thing. And it's kind of, we gotta get this into place here. And let's reflect a little bit of that in the underbelly. A bit of reflected light in here. Bring that on through. There it is there. Now, the fun part, when you make a mess like this, the great thing about this process is you can come back in and get rid of it. Again, a little bit more blending through here. Pick a cleaner side and just kind of bring it all together again. Eliminate a little bit of that trace line in there. Let's get some of this process here to kind of come back. We grab a sheet of paper here, guys, and we'll for a moment. We reach in the studio here. We'll grab a sheet of paper. Pardon me for kind of disappearing for a second here. There we are. Come back in through this and win this back. A little bit more reflected light on this guy. shadow. Let's get that back. That brings that out of the fold here. Kind of brings us back into reality. Let's get this highlight out of the way here. A little bit of highlight back into this. And we'll get rid of some of the excess here that I'm seeing on the borders. I'm going to clean that up a little bit. Let's kind of bring this in here. A little more blend in this thing. And a little bit more sunset, just kind of, we lost a little bit of richness in there. There she is. Bring that back just a bit and reflect a little bit more into the engine, the underbody, and a little bit of reflected sky into the actual cockpit itself. So I'm going to stop right there. I mean, what do you think, guys? Thank you very much for kind of hanging on here. Long session, but nonetheless, I think we got some real progress being made here. Let's kind of get this, let's kind of dust it out just a bit more here. More cloud pattern. A little more cloud pattern. It's going to break this up just a bit more, so it's not as ominous here. There we are. Now we'll blend it again, just to kind of, it's a give and take. Put it down, blend it a little bit. Put it down, blend it a little bit. Take some of the eraser markings out of it. And let's do this. Let's kind of see what happens here. Some little satellites or moons in there. Get a little more atmosphere to it. Let's take this thing and put a little more context into the actual landscape. Blur that out just a bit. Come back in again. Just a little bit more landmass here. Kind of break that up. And last but not least, a little more drawing definition in through here. And there she is. What do you think, gang? Overboarder. Hey, all right, thumbs up. Hey, are you still there? Let's see, I'm trying to think here. Are you still there? Victoria, what do you think? That just about does it right there. Let's see what happens when I take this form off of it here. Let's get this tape down, and we'll kind of clean this up a little bit more. Oops, I just noticed a little up on top there, just a touch of that. A little bit of pastel in the way. There we are. Get rid of that. And let's see what happens when we take this tape off of this thing. I'll do a little more cleanup, but I'll add a little bit of temper to it, and we'll call it a wrap. My fingers to work would be great. So there we are there, and that comes in, does that. Is that kind of a border frame? Skeptical about the landscape, and I guess you pull it. Oh, thanks very much. That's always touchy when you do that, Victoria. It's a real balancing act. I just want to compliment it very lightly with just enough background to give it a presence. What do you think? There it is. Let's see, we got to get rid of some of this stuff too. Let's see if we get rid of this up to a certain point. More than some of the graphics. I lost a little bit back into a little bit more highlight in here. Maybe some distant moons, some sort, but there she is. That we started on Tuesday with some thumbnail studies, looking for some facelifting work on the 400i. We made some interesting progress on the overall form itself. And I think just about going to wrap it up here. Let me get rid of some of my stuff here. Pardon me for all the junk on the table. Let's get rid of some of this material. And we'll make some room here for us. There she is. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of this and just bring this all front and center. And there it is right there, gang. And that is it. So what do you think? I'm going to wrap it up here with that kind of explanation, and hopefully we've done a good job of putting together the whole program from start to finish and try to maintain the same, let's bring this into play once again, the same character that we have here in this little thumbnail sketch into the actual final sketch itself, coming over the top, and that's it. Frame it and sell it. Don't I wish? That's the next phase. I think we'll bring this thing up on the, we might get some copies of this, Victoria, and put it up on the website. It's just a lot of fun to deal with. Let me just, one last thing that's missing here, pardon me. I just saw something I need to come back in and adjust. Let's get this back to highlight. Let's get that out of the way. There it is. And a little bit of highlight back in through here. And I think that's going to help our case. Once again, clean up some of the eraser shavings. But I think it just has enough character to it to give it a little bit of presence to itself. And one last thing here, let's get rid of some of this work as well. Bring this into play as well. Just got to get that out of the way. That's better. So there it is. Let's get rid of this. Once again, really appreciate you all hanging on here and staying with it here throughout the course of the presentation. A very interesting set of circumstances. It was a lot of fun to work with. I might go back and revisit this thing in time to come, put more graphics back into it, and maybe change the paradigm of the actual form itself, and maybe develop our own. Maybe it's a 410 or a 410J or something of that nature. It has a little more character to it than what we've already established here in this presentation. So, in wrapping it up here, gang, look at how far we've come along here. We started here, and ended up there. Look at that. Big progress, and thanks to the input from all of you tuning in. Huge difference. Always good to have you guys on board. It's fun to get the interaction with you all and get the yays and nays, and boy, that looks good, or that's terrible. Would you do that for? That's fun stuff. But again, let's bring this back in the frame here. I think that'll get us done here for a bit of time, and really kind of settles the score on what we wanted to do with this 400i. And again, I want to close it by saying this great piece of work. The 400i is absolutely elegant. No problem there at all. But if we looked at that again and did a little bit of facelift and got a little leaner and meaner with it, hey, that's going to be great, gang. So really neat. Yeah, me too. And Victoria, it's going to be fun to be a part of that process, and hope that's going to work out well for us. And again, thank you so much for taking the time here today, guys. And to you, Demetrius, I'm glad you're doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's always good to have you on board at this stage of the game. And tune in next Tuesday. I think I'll start maybe switching gears and changing a little bit of product work. I haven't made my mind up yet about what we're going to cover as far as stream is concerned, but I hopefully will be on board there next Tuesday, and I'm going to add some little bit of temporal highlight to this and call it and sign it, and we'll hopefully have this available, Victor. Hopefully we're going to have this thing available for auctioning off at the program next month, and we're going to get some copies made to sell too. So hopefully that'll all work out well for us. So once again, gang, thanks so much, and please take a minute and visit my website at drcontrast.com, where you see a series of drawing lessons and the like. You go through a series of 9 programs there that'll help you go from step 1 all the way through to some little sketch rendering, pencil work and the like. And then also, if you have any information, for example, that I can work with to make your information clarify some things that you're working with or dealing with, put together some notes and let me know at Jim at Dr. Contrast, my website at jim@drcontrast.com, my email address. It'd be great to have some information to work with. I've got a lineup of things I want to work with. If there's something I can do to help you, boy, please let me know, and I'd be happy to help you there as best I can. And also, please look at my Instagram, Jim Moore at the Instagram. I work there. YouTube, I'm going to post this guy up on YouTube, and we're done here today. So all that information really is helpful to me, gang, and so much appreciate you being on board. So all that to say that thank you very much again, and we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. Thanks again for all the time and patience, and always good to have you on board. And I always leave the stream with this very interesting commentary, because I believe with all my heart. There's no question in my heart of hearts that all it comes down to this: never forget to dare to be great. Always dare to be great. You guys are great to work with. Thanks so much, and all the very best, gang. We'll see you next Tuesday. Have a great weekend, and look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye now.